Bruce Lee walks into a San Francisco gym on a Tuesday morning when a 260-pound bodybuilder looks him up and down and says, "Size wins fights." What happens in the next 7 seconds doesn't just change the bodybuilder's mind, it changes his entire approach to strength. San Francisco. Early morning. The Iron Palace gym sits in the industrial district, tucked between warehouses and loading docks. Not a trendy fitness club. Not a place with mirrors on every wall and motivational posters. This is where serious lifters come to move serious weight. The building is concrete and steel, high ceilings with exposed beams, windows covered in decades of dust. The only light comes from industrial lamps hanging on chains. The floor is scarred concrete, weight plates scattered everywhere, benches worn smooth from years of use. Chalk dust hangs in the air like fog. The smell of iron and sweat and liniment oil, the sound of metal on metal, grunts of effort, heavy breathing, plates clanging. This is a temple to raw strength, to pure power, to the belief that bigger is always better. Bruce Lee pushes through the front door carrying a small gym bag. 26 years old, 5'7", 135 pounds, wearing simple black training pants and a white tank top. His arms are lean, defined but not bulky. By bodybuilding standards, he looks out of place, like someone who made a wrong turn, like someone who should be at a karate school or a dance studio. Not here, not in this cathedral of mass and muscle. The gym is maybe a third full, 15 guys, maybe 20, all of them big. The smallest probably weighs 190. Most are over 200, men who dedicate their lives to building size, men who measure success in pounds, on the scale, on the bar, on their frame, men who believe strength is visible, quantifiable, absolute. Bruce walks past them, finds an empty corner near the heavy bags, sets down his bag, starts his warm-up. Slow, deliberate movements, joint rotations, dynamic stretches, arm swings, leg swings, hip openers, movement preparation. To the bodybuilders, it looks like yoga, looks soft, looks unnecessary. Real warm-up is light sets on the bench, working up to your max. Not this dance routine. A few glance over, see Bruce's size, dismiss him immediately, go back to their sets. Bruce doesn't notice, doesn't care. He's not here for their approval. He's here to train. After 15 minutes of warm-up, Bruce moves to the heavy bag. Doesn't put on gloves, just starts hitting. Bare knuckles. The first punch lands with a crack that echoes through the gym. Not a thud. A crack. Like a whip. The bag swings hard, violent. The chain rattles. Bruce throws another. Same sound, same power. The bag moves like it weighs nothing, like it's being hit by someone much bigger, much heavier. The speed is impossible to ignore. Punch after punch, lead hand, rear hand, hooks, uppercuts. Each one landing with precision, each one generating power that doesn't match Bruce's frame. More guys are watching now, stopping their sets, staring. The sound cuts through everything, demands attention, commands respect. This small guy hitting the bag harder than men twice his size, hitting it faster, with more control, with more understanding of how to generate force. One of the bodybuilders walks over. His name is Frank. 6'3", 260 pounds, arms like telephone poles, chest like a barrel, legs thick from years of squats and deadlifts. He's been training at this gym for a decade, competed in regional shows, placed well, never won. But he's respected, known as one of the strongest guys around, benches 420 pounds, squats 650, deadlifts over 700. By every metric bodybuilding uses to measure strength, he's elite, top tier. In his world, those numbers mean everything, define everything, prove everything. Frank stands a few feet from the bag, arms crossed, watching. Bruce finishes his set, lets the bag settle, wipes sweat from his face, turns, sees Frank, doesn't say anything, just waits, neutral, present, ready for whatever comes. Frank says, "So what kind of training is this?" His tone isn't friendly, it's challenging, dismissive, like he's really asking what gives you the right to make that much noise in our gym. Bruce says simply martial arts training. Frank nods, says, "I figured, martial arts is fine for what it is, Speed, technique, flashy stuff. But in a real fight, size wins. Always has. Always will. Bruce doesn't react. Doesn't argue. Just says size is one factor. Frank laughs. Not a warm laugh. A condescending laugh. The laugh of someone who thinks they know better. Who thinks experience backs them up. Who thinks physics is on their side. He says size isn't one factor. It's the factor. You ever see a lightweight beat a heavyweight in a real fight? Not in some tournament with rules. In the street. Where it matters. The big guy wins. Every time. Because when you can bench press someone's body weight for reps, when you're strong enough to just grab them and control them, all the speed and technique in the world doesn't matter. You can't punch what you can't reach, can't hurt what you can't move, and you definitely can't fight someone who can just overpower you with raw strength. Other guys are drifting over now, sensing something. A confrontation brewing, entertainment forming. The gym gets quieter, fewer weights moving, more attention focused on this corner. Frank continues, says I'm 260, solid muscle. You're what? 130, 140. Bruce says 135. Frank grins, says exactly. I outweigh you by over 120 pounds. That's almost another entire person. You could hit me with your best shot and I'd barely feel it. But if I hit you, if I grab you, if I use my size the way it's meant to be used, fight's over. That's just physics. That's just reality. Size wins fights, period. Bruce looks at Frank, then says, what if I could show you otherwise? Frank raises his eyebrows, says, show me what? Bruce says, show you that size doesn't win fights. Understanding wins fights. Frank laughs louder now. Other guys chuckle. The idea is absurd to them. Goes against everything they believe, everything they've built their lives around. The whole point of bodybuilding is building size, building mass, becoming bigger, stronger, more powerful. And now this small guy is saying it doesn't matter. Frank says, all right, show me, prove it. Bruce says, try to grab me, use your size, use your strength. Try to control me the way you said. Frank looks around. Guys are watching. He can't back down now. He says, you sure about this? Bruce nods. Frank shrugs. Says your funeral. He steps forward, reaches out with both hands, going for Bruce's shoulders, planning to grab him, pull him in, show everyone how easy it is to control someone half your size. His hands are huge, like catcher's mitts, fingers spread wide, moving forward to clamp down on Bruce's frame. The gym goes silent. Everyone watching, waiting to see the small guy get manhandled, waiting to see size prove itself once again, waiting to see physics play out the way it always does. The big guy wins. The small guy learns a lesson. Order restored. Bruce doesn't move backward, doesn't retreat, doesn't run. He shifts his weight, 6 inches to the left. Frank's right hand passes through empty air, grabs nothing, before Frank can adjust, before his brain can process what happened. Bruce moves. Not a big movement, not a dramatic technique, just a simple inside step. Closing distance, getting inside Frank's reach, inside his guard. Too close for Frank to use his size, too close for Frank to reset. Bruce's right hand extends, finds Frank's leading wrist, doesn't grab it hard, just guides it, redirects it, uses Frank's own momentum, Frank's own forward pressure, against him. At the same time, Bruce's left hand comes up, palm strike, not to the face, not to the jaw, to the throat, light contact, just enough pressure to make the point, just enough to compress Frank's windpipe slightly, just enough to show what could happen if Bruce wanted it to. Frank freezes. His hands drop. His eyes go wide. He feels the pressure on his throat, understands instantly what just happened. Bruce could have crushed his windpipe, could have ended this in a hospital, could have done permanent damage. But he didn't. He just touched, just showed, just demonstrated. The whole sequence takes 7 seconds. From Frank reaching forward to Frank standing there with Bruce's hand on his throat. 7 seconds to completely reverse the size advantage. 7 seconds to show that understanding matters more than mass. 7 seconds to prove that technique beats strength when technique knows what it's doing. Bruce removes his hand, steps back, gives Frank space. Frank touches his throat, swallows, looks at Bruce with something between confusion and respect. The gym is dead silent. Nobody moves, nobody speaks. They just witness something that shouldn't be possible. Watched a 135-pound man completely neutralize a 260-pound bodybuilder without effort, without strain, without using strength at all. Just position, just timing, just understanding. Bruce says quietly, "Size didn't help you there." Frank says, "Because you got lucky." Bruce shakes his head, says, "Try again." Frank hesitates. Bruce says, "I'll stand still. You try to grab me however you want." Frank looks around. Pride is on the line now. He can't walk away. He sets his stance. This time he goes low, tries to shoot in for a wrestling takedown, going for Bruce's legs, planning to drive forward with his weight. Lift Bruce up, slam him down, use gravity and mass to end this. Frank shoots, driving forward with all 260 pounds, all that muscle, all that power. Bruce doesn't try to sprawl, doesn't back up, just pivots, 90 degrees. Frank's arms wrap around empty space. His momentum carries him forward into nothing. He stumbles, tries to stop himself. Can't. His balance is gone. Bruce's left foot sweeps Frank's lead ankle. Not hard, just enough. Frank goes down, crashes to the concrete, flat on his chest, breath knocked out. Bruce could follow up, could strike, could lock a joint, could finish this. But he doesn't. Just stands there, waiting for Frank to get up. Frank pushes himself up slowly, breathing hard, not from exertion, from shock, from the realization of what just happened. Again, Bruce just dismantled him, made his size irrelevant, made his strength useless, made everything Frank believes about fighting completely wrong. Frank stands, brushes chalk dust off his shirt, looks at Bruce, says how. Bruce says, "Because you believe size wins fights. So you rely on size. You move like someone who's always been bigger, always been stronger. You don't think about position because you've never had to. Don't think about timing because you've never needed to. Don't think about leverage because your strength always compensated. But fighting isn't about compensation. It's about efficiency, about using the least amount of energy to achieve the maximum result. Your size is an advantage against someone who doesn't understand how to neutralize it. But against someone who does, your size becomes a liability, makes you slower, makes you predictable, makes you believe you can power through everything. And that belief creates openings. Frank is quiet, processing. The other bodybuilders are quiet too, watching, listening, learning something they didn't know they needed to learn. Bruce says, "I'm not trying to disrespect bodybuilding. You've built an impressive physique. You're incredibly strong. I couldn't squat what you squat, couldn't bench what you bench. But functional strength and gym strength are different things. You've optimized your body for lifting weights. I've optimized mine for dealing with resistance that fights back. Weights don't hit you while you're lifting them. Don't try to sweep your legs. Don't go for your throat. People do. And people require different preparation, different understanding, different skills." Frank says, "So all my training is useless." Bruce shakes his head, says, "No. Your training gave you a foundation, gave you discipline, gave you strength that can be redirected toward functional goals. You just need to learn how to use it differently, how to integrate it with timing and position and leverage, how to make it work in dynamic situations instead of static lifts." Bruce says, "If you want to learn, I can teach you." Frank looks surprised, says, "You'd teach me after I said size wins fights, after I basically called you weak." Bruce says, "Yes, because you learned something in the last 7 seconds. You learned that your assumptions might be wrong. That's rare. Most people defend their assumptions forever, never test them, never let them be challenged. You just did. That's the hardest step. Everything after that is just practice." Frank is quiet for a long moment, then says, "When?" Bruce says, "Come to my school tomorrow." Brings the address on his card. Junfan Gung Fu Institute, Oakland. Frank takes the card, nods, still processing, still trying to reconcile what he believed with what just happened. Bruce picks up his bag, says to the room if anyone else wants to learn, same offer. Nobody says anything, but several guys take note. Remember, the seed is planted. The next day, Frank shows up at Bruce's school in Oakland. Nervous, out of his element. The school is smaller than he expected. Simple, no fancy equipment, no mirrors. Just open floor space, some training pads, a few heavy bags. Focus on substance over style, on function over form. Bruce sees him, smiles, genuinely pleased, says you came. That takes courage. Frank says I need to understand what you did, how you did it. Bruce nods, says good. That's the right motivation. Let's start. Bruce doesn't start with techniques, doesn't teach specific moves, starts with concepts, explains the difference between relative strength and absolute strength, between isolated power and integrated power, between tension and relaxation, between forcing movements and allowing movements. Frank listens carefully, asks questions, challenges ideas. Bruce welcomes the challenges, uses them to teach deeper, to explain better, to show rather than tell. Over the following months, Frank's training changes completely. He realizes how much unnecessary tension he carries, how his bodybuilding has made him strong but rigid, how his impressive size actually limits his movement in ways he never considered. He's slow to change direction, burns massive energy maintaining constant tension, telegraphs every movement because he's used to setups that don't matter when the weight isn't fighting back. Bruce works with him patiently, breaking down ingrained patterns, teaching efficient movement, teaching how to generate power without maximum muscle engagement, teaching how to actually apply strength in combat rather than just display it in static positions. Frank transforms, not physically. He's still 260, still massive, still looks like a professional bodybuilder, but he moves differently now, lighter, faster, more controlled. He learns to use his size properly, not as the primary tool, as one tool among many. Combined with proper technique, his natural size becomes devastating. He's not as fast as Bruce, never will be, but he becomes effective, dangerous, capable. Months later, Bruce tells Frank something important. Says, when we met, you dismissed me because of my size, but you were open enough to learn after being proven wrong. That's rare. Most people's ego won't allow it. They'll rationalize, make excuses, anything to avoid admitting they were wrong. You didn't do that. You faced it head on. That's why you're progressing so fast. Not because you're naturally talented at this, because you're willing to be wrong. Frank asks why Bruce offered to teach him. Bruce says, because I've been dismissed too. People see my size, see that I'm Chinese, see that I'm different, and they make assumptions. I could have used that moment in the gym to feel superior, to humiliate you in front of everyone. But that doesn't help anyone. Teaching you, helps me, helps everyone you'll eventually teach. That moment wasn't about proving you wrong. It was about opening a door. Whether you walked through it was up to you. But I had to offer, had to give you the chance. Frank goes back to his gym, tells people about Bruce, about what he learned. Some dismiss it, say Frank got lucky, say it was a fluke, say size still wins fights and Bruce just caught him off guard. But some listen. Some come to Oakland, some train, some learn. The seed keeps growing. Frank becomes known as the bodybuilder who can actually fight. Not just look like he can fight, actually do it. When people ask, he tells them about 7 seconds that changed everything. 7 seconds that showed him his assumptions were wrong. 7 seconds that opened his mind to different possibilities. Some people listen, some people learn. The ripple continues outward. Years later, Frank is still training, still teaching, passing on what Bruce taught him. Not just techniques, philosophy, understanding. When young bodybuilders come to him and say size wins fights, he tells them his story. Tells them about walking into a martial arts school believing he knew everything. Tells them about learning he knew nothing. Tells them about 7 seconds that changed his entire approach to strength. Some listen, some don't. But the ones who do, the ones who open their minds, the ones who let go of assumptions, They become better, not just at fighting, at everything. Because the lesson isn't really about fighting. It's about assumptions, about ego, about being willing to be wrong so you can become right. That's what 7 seconds created. Not just one lesson, but a chain reaction, a ripple effect. People learning their assumptions might be wrong. People discovering that being proven wrong is the first step to being better. People understanding that real strength isn't about being big, it's about being effective. That real power isn't about mass, it's about understanding. That real mastery isn't about dominating, it's about teaching. Bruce gave Frank those 7 seconds. Gave him a demonstration he didn't ask for but desperately needed. Gave him knowledge he didn't know he was missing. Gave him the chance to be better. Frank took it, changed his life, changed his understanding, changed everyone he touched afterward. What assumptions are you carrying? What beliefs do you hold that you've never tested? What do you dismiss because it doesn't fit your worldview? Because 7 seconds is all it takes to prove those assumptions wrong. 7 seconds to open your mind. 7 seconds to change your life. Bruce gave Frank those 7 seconds. Who needs your 7 seconds? Who are you dismissing right now because of their size, their appearance, their background? What if they're the ones who can teach you what you need to learn? What if your assumptions are wrong? What if being proven wrong is exactly what you need? 7 seconds. That's all it took. 7 seconds to dismantle a decade of beliefs. 7 seconds to plant a seed that grew for decades. 7 seconds that changed everything. Not because Bruce was trying to humiliate Frank. Because Bruce was trying to teach him. And Frank was willing to learn. That's the real lesson. Not the technique, not the demonstration. The willingness to be wrong. The courage to learn. The humility to accept that maybe you don't know everything. Maybe your assumptions need testing. Maybe being small doesn't mean being weak. Maybe being big doesn't mean being strong. Maybe strength is more complex than you thought. Maybe fighting is more nuanced than you believed. Maybe 7 seconds is all you need to change your entire understanding of what's possible. Bruce proved that. Frank learned it. Now the question is whether you will too.